Hello, everyone. Welcome to the November 2023 episode of Astro-Tarot Deep Dive. I'm Millie. I'm here with my co-host Susheela, and we are ready to talk about November. November is feels like a bridge month, like
Yeah.
we're crossing a bridge. But it definitely represents being on the other side of something. It definitely represents being, we were just talking before we started recording that it feels like a month where we're coming back to our lives after feeling like we may have taken a brief step back during eclipse
Mhm.
season in October. I mean, October felt so long. It felt
Yeah.
like so much happened. And now we're coming back kind of where we left off, wherever that was, but we are not the same. And so the buildup of us not being the same really goes back to that Venus retrograde that we experienced. And that's important to note because it did play a big role into how the eclipses of October played out.
Mm.
And here we are on it, just getting to know this new part of ourselves.
Yeah, and I think, you know, in October, and I mean, in a way, it's like we just recorded October, but we did actually just record October. I think it was the 16th.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
prior to that, October 14th, with that new moon and everything, it really was like turning a corner.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we're 60% there, maybe we're 75% there, depending on, where people are on their timeline with the big picture. But it is that. And this month I'm looking at the cards and I kind of, you don't know what the cards are, but I did give you a little overview just before we started that out of roughly 21 different aspects that we're talking about, 9 of them are major arcana cards.
Mm-hmm.
And I likened it to um, we're getting ready for opening night of a big Broadway production. So there's the major arcana cards are like these big issues that we've been working on. All the big elements are there, and they're impending. They're like hanging there over us. We know they're there. We're not at the beginning phases of anything at all. We're getting very close to opening night.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've got a month here of a lot of beginnings and a lot of, I don't want to say endings, but it's like completion of tying off of these like little things that are actually part of a really big thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, we aren't the same and we're not fully who we're going to be yet. But we're
Right.
so not who we were, like when you think about Venus retrograde in Leo a few months ago. We're
Mm-hmm.
not that person at all.
Right.
So the pieces are coming back together. They're not fully arranged yet.
Absolutely. You
Yeah.
know, you and I are recording this on October 29th, a day after the second eclipse of
Yeah.
October, which was the full moon eclipse in Taurus, which ended pretty much a 2-year cycle of eclipses in the Taurus Scorpio axes. This is important to know moving into November because the whole point of the Taurus Scorpio eclipses was around sense of self-worth, value, how we value our time, how we value our work, how we value ourselves, and really paying attention to the how we define value in our lives and how that reflects back to us.
Mhm.
That's important because as we move into November and the rest of Scorpio season, I think the energy of Scorpio is really going to intensify that for us. How much about that did we learn? And how much are we actually honoring that? Right? Because that's the point of eclipse seasons. That's the point of the nodes moving from one axis to the next, is that whatever cycles we finish off, those lessons were meant to take on to the next cycle, and so on and so forth. So we begin this month, the first major aspects, I think, of the month of November are the Sun in Scorpio creating an opposition to Jupiter retrograde in Taurus, and Venus in Virgo in opposition to Neptune in Pisces. So a few things here. The Sun in Scorpio, the Sun in opposition to Jupiter, has this energy of anything is possible. I am so excited. I can see what's ahead of me. I want to move forward. And I think that's really great energy, because in Scorpio and Taurus, Sun in Scorpio, what's your strategy? What are you committed to? Have you done your research? Scorpio energy can be very diligent in that way. The retrograde in Taurus, the Jupiter retrograde in Taurus, is still the understanding this isn't going to take off right away, but it's not that far away, because Jupiter goes direct by the end of December. Venus in Virgo, opposition to Neptune and Pisces, on the one hand, again, really high aspirations. Venus in Virgo, if I take care of the little details, if I show myself self-love, Venus, by taking care of myself on a daily basis, Virgo, if I take care of those core things, Neptune and Pisces, the big picture is possible. On the other hand, both of these aspects combined together, if we're starting the month off this way, is wanting the really big things to happen right now, and then not having enough patience to say it can't happen right now, and then saying, well, then it's just not going to happen, and kind of giving up.
Throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Right.
The idea. So I'm using the Crow deck today. I haven't used that in a while. We've got the Star and the Four of Wands. So the Star is full of optimism. It's the public, persona. And one of the things I think too with this node changing business and the Scorpio Taurus balance, there's a lot of the dream attached to the outer persona, the optimal persona, versus the deep, dark, yikes stuff in my psyche. And how to, it's been like an oscillation back and forth, and now it's kind of like, oh, maybe I need to bring some of those things to the forefront. What if I bring them to the forefront? Then how does that change my outward persona? And I think we're beginning to embrace that a little bit more. Some of us with moons and Scorpios might be a little more prone to it. But it's really like this optimism that's in a lofty sense, in still somewhat a disconnected sense. And then the Four of Wands is bringing things back into balance again. We've been talking about things coming back into balance the whole month of October, but this is again, it's like the 1111 card. It's usually, depicted like two wands and two wands on either side. It used to be traditionally like the marriage card, or like the promise of something. It's foundational, it's stable, all of those things. And we've got them together, but there's this air of, it still feels a little intangible. It feels a little mystical. It feels like in its highest form, it feels like infatuation and the law of attraction, and the universe is on my side. And then there's like a gap of like, but how do I actually attain it? And I think the gap is getting a little narrower.
But yeah, I agree. I think another thing that's worth mentioning is that if this is landing for you because you have really big aspirations and dreams for a project or a job or whatever it is, understand that that is very real. And that if it feels so big, it's because it's meant to be. It's just that you've probably never had or accepted that having dreams this big is okay. And I think that's really important to name, because big things come with time because they
Mhm.
require a solid foundation. So I say that because on November 4th, we have Saturn finally going direct in Pisces. Saturn has been retrograde for several months, and it has been retrograde through that very important Venus retrograde, through the eclipses. And that matters because whenever Saturn goes retrograde, Saturn being the planet of commitment, foundation, discipline, consistency, Saturn retrograde invites us to ask ourselves, is that what we want to be committed to? Is that who we want to be committed to? Is that what we want to be disciplined with? It's really a time to ask ourselves, what am I building a structure for? Because Saturn represents the ability to climb the mountain, but
Mhm.
Saturn retrograde represents be mindful that you're not climbing the wrong mountain or the mountain that isn't aligned with you, right? And so in Pisces, it's actually really soft. I've said this a few times. I think Saturn in Pisces is compassionate accountability. I didn't know that, and maybe now you do. Um, Mercury in Scorpio in opposition to Uranus and Taurus, this is more of like strokes of genius, big ideas. Um, it's, I thought that I could only do this, but maybe I can actually do this. Maybe it can actually be this big. There is something about Uranus and Taurus that's saying, how about a little bigger? How
Mhm.
about a little more? You want to keep this in mind because in April of 2024, Uranus and Jupiter are going to come together. Uranus invites you to think outside the box, and Jupiter is saying, yeah, and imagine if you do, imagine the best case scenario. There's a lot of beautiful potential optimistic energy this month, but I think it's really about drilling down and asking yourself, do I actually believe this is possible?
Yeah, I think there's this feeling of some of these things are so big that we don't trust that
Mm-hmm.
that's really the case. Like, are we
Right,
really here? Did I really do all that work?
right,
And that's what it means. Like, I
right.
only had these dreams, and now that I've cleared that, all these other things are coming.
Mm-hmm.
And it's odd. I've heard for the last month and a half a lot of people saying in a lot of different contexts, like, oh, I did all these things, but I'm probably not meant to do them because this and this happened negative.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Mm-hmm.
can be in terms of relationships, it could be in terms of different situations, work environments, whatever. I guess I shouldn't do this and this and this, whatever the actions are, because I just got, you know, pooped on, basically.
Yeah.
And I've said to every single one of those people, it's not what you did, it's who you did it for or the situation you did it in that was
Mm-hmm.
wrong. Your inclination was correct, but due to
Yes.
past programming, you chose incorrectly as
Mm-hmm.
to where to align yourself. You were misaligned, not wrong action. So, um, and that's what we've been learning actually. So here we've got the Hierophant and the King of Pentacles, and this is an amazing duo of energy for this day, because the Hierophant is really that leveling up of whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
if it's education or money or your job or corporate, a small business becoming a big business, or whatever it is, even just spiritually, even just internally, awareness wise, it
Mm-hmm.
is like a massive leveling up.
Mm-hmm.
And the King of Pentacles is that Taurus energy. It's very practical. It can be Capricorn energy too, but it's definitely representing the Taurus part of this, um, the grounded energy, the making things happen, the being responsible, finding all the pieces to be able to level up. And it's actually saying you don't have to look that far. You have all the components. You just have to reconfigure them.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. Yeah. Um, more of that earth energy, which I think is going to be so supportive, and over the last couple of months has been in the background in some way, shape, or form, continuing to be supportive. I think this is why we didn't go fully in the depths of to the extent that we could have during eclipse season. November 6th, we have Venus in Virgo creating a trine to Pluto in Capricorn. Ooh, that's so good. That's such a great trine. I mean, Venus in Virgo, the daily, showing up for the daily tasks, being diligent, being mindful with your money. This is a great aspect for accounting purposes because Venus money, Virgo looking at the details, Pluto and Capricorn, how can I maximize my money, right? So it's a great day to talk to your accountant or a financial advisor about how can I make my money grow farther. But that's such a powerful trine because Venus and Pluto usually don't go well together, but in a Earth trine, it's actually very powerful. And then we have Mercury in Scorpio, trine Neptune in Pisces. Mercury in Scorpio, again, it's strategy, it's the detective of the zodiac, the depth psychologist of the zodiac. So there is this inability to escape the truth of what we're experiencing. So let's say that you take that day to talk about your finances, right? And let's say that for some reason you don't have as much money as you wish you did. Mercury in Scorpio is going to say, that's okay, but at least we know what we're working with. And the trine to Neptune in Pisces is, how can we be creative to actually make this grow? And that Venus in Virgo, trine Pluto in Capricorn is, and this is how I'm going to show up. It's a really beautiful combination of energy that I think is very honest, very transparent, very direct, but also with a lot of potential.
So we have, again, a very amazing duo as far as the cards are concerned.
I love that.
10 of Pentacles, Knight of Wands. 10 of Pentacles is big money. It's your legacy money. It's generational wealth. It's creating things that run themselves, putting systems in place, optimizing whatever it is that you've got, leveraging all of that stuff. The Knight of Wands, okay, so the Knight he's a bit fiery. He's the second fastest Knight in the deck, charging forward. The downside can be, let me just fix this. Let me just run by. I don't want to hear the bad news. Just like on the plus side, on the upside of this, it's very creative and passionate. So if you combine these energies, it's kind of like saying, look at where your passions lie and expand on those in the most grounded way that you can. And again, it's reinforcing everything we've already said about, the beginning of this month. Like that first week is really like, get your stuff in order and focus on it because you can do it. And the energies are conducive. So you might not have made the right connections, or there's a folder sitting in somebody's inbox or whatever, but this is where stuff gets to take off. Like it's beginning to really take off. And again, it's typically not about truth, as you mentioned, with the astrology component, but there's no escaping this. You can't do this with eyes closed. This is full on awareness, everything out in the open, blasting forward.
Right. And so with that energy, it will absolutely, that same type of transparency and awareness is going to carry on over to our relationships, because on November 8th, Venus enters Libra, which, as we know, Venus rules the sign of Libra, so it will be in what we call residence, and it will remain there till December 4th. Okay. Venus in Libra throughout the trajectory of that transit is going to highlight, yet again, a lot of stuff that we learned with the Venus retrograde in Leo, and it's going to review a lot of the lessons that we learned in October with eclipses. This is important. We need to. It's not like these events pass and then it's like, okay, well, I learned my lesson. That's usually not how it happens. The thing about Venus and Libra, the energy about Venus and Libra is being tactful, being mindful of what's said, being mindful of who's responsible for what, weighing the pros and the cons. So even if some of the lessons in relationship the last couple of months have been rough, I think that with Venus and Libra, there is a softness. There is, again, more tact to approach a lot of these things. On the same day, we have Mercury and Scorpio again, then creating a sextile to Pluto and Capricorn. Again, it's consider Venus and Libra as negotiation energy, and Mercury and Scorpio sextile Pluto and Capricorn is one, being very confident in what you're saying, but making sure that you have your stuff to back it up. And two, being transparent, because both Scorpio and Pluto in the mix, if there's anything that's being hidden, you can't hide things with Pluto and Scorpio energy. It's going to be uncovered. So showing up as you are, and there's no reason to be aggressive. You can be assertive, especially when everything for you is in order.
Well, I'm going to start with that one and work backwards on this.
Yeah.
We have the moon, which is exactly the Scorpio card. It is the things that are hidden, things coming to light, that deep part of yourself that you're afraid to show, your subconscious mind, your psyche, your dreams. And I don't mean your conscious dreams like dreams and aspirations, but the weird way that if you suppress stuff, it shows up in your dreams, all of that. And in connection with that, we go back to the first thing you mentioned, and we have the Wheel of Fortune. And we also have a lion in here, Leo symbol. And it makes me think of, thank goodness Vina was Vina. I just changed the whole word, put it together. Venus was retrograde in Leo. Thank goodness, because that ego got removed. It took a back seat. We wouldn't be here now if that hadn't happened. That opportunity was like, so nice. Like, it was difficult at the time, but how nice that you could take the I'm gonna screw it up again. You could take the ego out of that situation, take the ego out of the facade, because we're craving it. We're just dying for things to be real. And so with the Wheel of Fortune, where it's auspicious, the energies are conducive, everything is in the right place in the right time. And there's like this little warning that if you don't take advantage of these things at this time, you're kind of bringing a lot of like sticky things into the future. Like, it's like, you should know by now to drop it, to clear it out, expose it, shine the light on it. Just, who cares? Like, this stuff in the subconscious mind, like, whatever. I mean, I'm not telling everybody to tell everybody all their business or expose every single thing or be brutally honest. It's not that. It's just like, if it's something that's meaningful to you, put it out there and like work through the fear. Everything is conducive for you to take that step, move forward, be the person that you've been craving to be. Take the ridicule, take the whatever, just do it. Just, it's relieving. Like, it just feels so relieving to have these two cards together. Like, Vino.
Well, it's important to remember that the South Node is currently transiting the sign of Libra. So the South Node in Libra is going to expose the lower expression of the sign of Libra, which is codependence, which is caring too much about what other people think, which is behaving a certain way so that people choose you and like you, right? Really icky stuff, right?
Mhm.
And so Venus transiting Libra is, how are you now? Or how are these themes coming up in your relationships? And how are you perhaps choosing differently, hopefully choosing differently? And to your point a little earlier, it's also about understanding that it's not about telling everything to everyone. It's about understanding that not everybody deserves to
Yeah.
be in your space in that way. And I
Yep.
think that Venus in Libra is going to highlight that a lot in this time around, because this is the first time that we have a Venus in Libra in about 2 years, a year and a half. And it's the first time in a long time that Venus in Libra is going to meet the South Node in Libra. It's a
Mhm.
really big deal.
Yeah.
When the time comes, I'm sure we'll talk about it, but Venus is going to come together with the South Node. That's going to be a redirection in relationships, and you want to start paying attention to how Scorpio season is exposing things here and there. Okay, so November 10th, Mercury enters Sagittarius. Another big thing, right?
Mhm.
Mercury will retrograde from December 13th at 8 degrees Capricorn back to 22 degrees Sagittarius from December 13th to January 1st. So Mercury is going to be in Sagittarius for quite some time. Mercury in Sagittarius is no filter. I speak my mind, can sometimes be a little preachy, but it's also about understanding that the perception that we have of the world, Mercury, is created by what we learn in life. Sagittarius is known as the student of life. It reminds us that this life is our school. So how are we taking the lessons that we've learned, especially the second half of this year, and really applying them? That's what that Mercury retrograde is about, or will be about.
Mhm.
So the first thing that Mercury in Sagittarius does is that it creates a square to Saturn in Pisces. It creates an aspect of tension. These are the big ideas. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to say. This is what I'm moving forward with. And then squared to Saturn and Pisces. It's what we've been talking about for the first half of the month. It's, yes, dream the big dreams, acknowledge yourself, you know, speak for yourself, advocate for yourself, and understand that this is still something that you're learning to do. That Saturn and Pisces is really about, let's move slowly. Let's move a
Mhm.
little bit slowly.
Again, some really interesting cards here. So for the first aspect, Mercury entering Sagittarius, this is this is very nice for going down the road again of finances, business, tangible things in your life, even if that's a relationship, just the day-to-day practical matters of what it is that you're doing. And it's the beginning of something. You get to, I would say, create an elevator pitch for yourself. Maybe
Mm,
one for you, who you are, instead of like, I'm so and so and I do this for a living. What is your like you really, what is your elevator pitch that you go out there and you talk to people and you meet people, like kind of embody this thing so it's not vague anymore, and it's like doors are opening, first amounts of money are landing, offers are coming to you. How do you plan to embark on those connections that's different than the way you did things before? And so
mhm.
it's a big opportunity to sort of redefine that as you go forward. And then when it goes retrograde, well, hopefully you've done this part so that that retrograde is not going to feel horrendous when it happens. And it will happen over the holiday season more, where everything slows down. So as long as, you're not traveling too much, I think at the time, we'll deal with that in December. But anyway, the Five of Wands, Mercury in Sagittarius, squaring Pisces, or Saturn in Pisces. I couldn't think of a better card to pick. It's nicely depicted here, the Five of Wands. They're all different colors, which is kind of these pretty elements, these nice things in our lives, and how we tend to self-sabotage or go get fixated on, well, I went for that interview and the manager said this thing, and I don't know if that's a bad thing. Does that mean I don't have the job? Am I
Mm.
Oh, she said they only ever give it to this type of candidate, and I'm not that.
Mhm.
Oh, spiraling out of control. It's minor. Both of these things are minor elements that lead to a big picture thing. So a 1 and a 5 is a 6. Together it's balanced. Together it's about bringing things back into harmony. There's a reciprocity, a karmic kind of element to it. You have to push yourself. Push yourself for clarity. That's what I would say.
Mhm. Mhm. On November 11th, 11/11, we have Mars and Scorpio creating an opposition to Uranus and Taurus. So, a few things here. Mars and Scorpio can be very strategic and stealth about how it's going to move forward. So, it can have this energy of, this is my plan. And I'm obsessed with it. And there is no other way that I'm going to get to where I'm going to get to. The opposition to Uranus and Taurus is like, surprise, Uranus. It's always the element of expecting the unexpected. To me, this feels like there's nothing wrong with having a strategic plan, obviously. I think that all of Scorpio season lends itself to that because we have the Sun, Mercury, and Mars really transiting at close proximity to one another the entire season. That matters. But the opposition to Uranus and Taurus is, be mindful that you're not holding on too tightly. Make room for things to surprise you, honestly. And can you allow yourself to be surprised? Can you trust? Another thing with this, Mars in opposition to Uranus, and not the greatest interpretation, is the volatility, being mindful of like minor accidents. If you're someone who tends to work out, for instance, silly example, but make sure that, your area around you is safe, that there's nothing that you can trip on, right? Because there is this element of the unexpected with something that you have very much laid out with something that you've laid out in your mind pretty clearly.
Mm-hmm. I like that you mentioned that surprise element.
Mm-hmm.
We have the Two of Pentacles here, and they're usually always depicted with this infinity symbol. It's an infinity, not an 8. And the Two of Pentacles traditionally means money comes in, money flows out. Just enough comes in, enough goes out. But there's a flow. Again, it's
Mm-hmm.
this reciprocity. The fact that there's an infinity symbol means it's never going to run out. So don't get caught in this, like, I never have enough money, it's never growing, things are not improving, I keep doing the same thing all the time, nothing's changing. Whereas you need to shift your awareness more to, all these little things are allowing me to continue to move forward. This amount of money comes in because it came in just at the right time so I could buy new tires for my car.
Right.
So instead of thinking like, oh, I just got up to here and then it went out again because this unexpected thing happened.
Mm-hmm.
Aren't you lucky that that money came in so you could pay for the unexpected thing that happened?
Mm-hmm.
It's that kind of a feeling. So stuff is coming in because it needs to go out. So you're getting exactly what you need. It's not yet in the big picture, but it's allowing you to move forward. So there's the need for gratitude so that that flow continues. Know that this is just a little step in the way. So we've had this escalation now. Ace of Pentacles moving into the two, moving, into the other ones that I won't mention yet. But the numbers, the numerology means something in tarot also. And the fact that we've got so many like wands and pentacles here, the little bit of passion funneled into the right place in order to make physical change happen is what we're dealing with here. Like,
Yeah.
keep that energy flowing. Doesn't matter if it's only a little bit, just keep going, keep it flowing. Oh, you don't want too much, because when the unexpected happens, you need to be able to like navigate. So it's a good sign.
I think that I love that because that energy takes us into the new moon in Scorpio of November 13th. I think one of the more prominent aspects of this new moon in Scorpio is its opposition to Uranus and Taurus. So again, it's more of that. It's more of allowing life to surprise you, and not just surprise you like out of nowhere, just to be I think one of the things with Uranus energy is thinking outside the box, is thinking outside this box that we live in, where it conditions us that we can only make so much money, that we can only aspire to this, that we can only do so much. And thinking outside the box is saying, actually, I'm a co-creator with the universe. And so the new moon in Scorpio is, I think, the calling to how much we actually believe that and hold that and are beginning to make it a new truth in our life. And the opposition to Uranus is, we will be reflected back what we actually believe at our core.
Mm-hmm.
And so around that new moon, Mercury's in Sagittarius, Venus is in Libra. Mercury and Sagittarius and Venus and Libra working together. We'll get to that in a second, but all of these aspects are part of this new moon that are supportive, and they're actually pretty optimistic. It is, it is an intense new moon, all of the things, but I think what it's calling for is intensity to our belief system as to, again, what we're capable of. And I think that a lot of this, because Scorpio is involved, has to do with money and has to do with resources.
Yep. So we have this really nice card here, the Queen of Pentacles. And the energy of the Queen of Pentacles is, so it's feminine energy.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. Feminine energy, meaning it's receptive energy.
Mm-hmm.
It's grounded, nurturing, receptive energy. Like, what does that mean in your life? And again, it's the coin. This queen sits on the throne here in comfort, in luxury, in opulence, but it's fully connected to the earth, the environment, understanding how things function, how things roll. All those, that needs to happen out there. This needs to happen over there. But when you embody it, you're sitting there in full like gratitude, pride, reverence, humility, all sort of wrapped up in it, of just going, this is just the way it is. This is my new reality. And I think like everybody has probably experienced manifesting things, some really cool things that surprised them, or they were spontaneous when they stopped caring.
Right.
I didn't even care about that thing, and look at what I got. Whereas they've sometimes put a lot of effort into something, in a situation or a project or a job application or a relationship, and it blew up in their face.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go, manifesting doesn't work, because everything I ever really cared about, put a lot of time and effort and work into it, fell apart. And then these random things that I didn't even, whatever, manifested something incredible. But it's not that you wanted something or you didn't want something or you thought you did the right thing. The energy of the Queen of Pentacles is exactly that latter mindset. Whatever, it's going to happen. The stuff happens. And
Yeah.
you just need to show up, and it shows up, and it's understanding that we are connected to source and we're connected to abundance.
Mm-hmm.
Now all you need to do is respect it.
Mm-hmm.
And there it is. And she's very, very happy and content sitting there.
That's a really beautiful card for that new moon in Scorpio,
Yeah.
because Scorpio is actually really powerful feminine energy. Um, but there is something about not being consumed by the intensity and instead understanding that intensity is actually defined by how much we connect with our life and source. And that intensifies our experience of life, which is very different.
Well, think about when you really, really want something, it's not the right energy that you're putting out to the universe.
That's a good point.
All it does is reinforce the lack.
Right. That's a good point.
The if it's a relationship, the fear of losing somebody, that's not the place to develop a proper relationship.
Right.
I really want the job, I really want this thing to pan out. That's not trusting, that's not believing, that's yearning, and that's focusing on the huge possibility that it's quite likely not yours. Whereas the Queen of Pentacles is like, whatever's meant for me comes to me. I live my best life. I have abundance and prosperity in whatever way the universe sees fit to give it to me. These are all good things. I don't need to worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
I just need to manage it.
Right. Right. That takes us to November 15th, where we have Mercury and Sagittarius creating a sextile to Venus and Libra. Great, great, great day, especially under the influence of a new moon in Scorpio for negotiations. Again, especially like salary, money types of negotiations. Both Sagittarius and Libra in the zodiac have to do with the legal system. So this is a great time to sign a contract, especially if there is any time where you want to take advantage of signing a contract, is probably this day or before. But Mercury and Sagittarius, it's about looking at the big picture. Hopefully you're leaning into it optimistically, communicating with the right people, communicating with the people that really, pump you up, that are your cheerleaders. And the sextile to Venus and Libra is one negotiating, that's why it's such a great day for that. But another thing is Venus and Libra relationships that make you feel, that are your cheerleaders, but it also make you feel at ease, that remind you again of what brings balance into your life. So it's a really great energy. Fire and air are meant to inspire you.
Ace of Swords, perfect card for this. Swords are typically air signs. Clear thinking, clear speaking, having eloquent language, being able to speak your truth, ask for what it is that you want. It should be received well. If that's a contract, then say, I really want this amount. I want this many days for this. I want that little bonus, and say it clearly with integrity. That's what it gives you. The sword is like both the throat chakra and that vision of the third eye.
Okay.
It's far reaching, except it's the initiation point. Being able to see very far, like eagle vision kind of thing. And it's a sword, so it's pointed and it's focused and it can cut through things. There's nothing extra here in terms of carrying around the BS or having to sugarcoat your words or flatter You know, it's really it deals with intelligence, um, eloquence, clear-sightedness, proper language, being honest, and being direct. All of that stuff is favored.
I love that. On November 17th, we have Sun and Mars in Scorpio. So the Sun is conjunct Mars in Scorpio, creating a trine to Neptune in Pisces. A few things here. The Sun and Mars coming together. First of all, it's important to mention that Mars is also in resonance. So we have both of the cosmic lovers in signs that they rule. This is important to note because when that happens, the overall energy of masculine and feminine dynamics is actually pretty favorable. And when you think about, again, masculine and feminine dynamics, it's not just about romantic relationships. It is about when you are negotiating. It is about this really beautiful dance between you and the universe. It's about giving and receptivity and the balance of feminine and masculine energies. Venus in Libra, again, very intelligent, very tactful. Mars in Scorpio, very strategic, very intentional, very intentional. So on this day, we have the sun illuminating our identity, our vitality, who we are in Mars action. This is how I want to move forward, and this is why. And the trine to Neptune in Pisces, a few things. One is the trust and the belief in something greater and that you are being supported. That's Neptune in Pisces. It's truly the energy of spirit, of source. Neptune in Pisces. On the other, it's also about remembering you don't have to force anything. Because if you, the sun, is aligned with your action, Mars in Scorpio, you don't have to pummel over anything. You don't have to bulldoze anything or anyone to get what you want. It's just a matter of minding your lane and minding your business and keeping on moving forward. Trine to Neptune in Pisces, because you know that you're supported.
Well, we get the Four of Cups on that one. Talk about not noticing the cool thing when it shows up. This is a card that can be about, okay, on one hand, it can be boredom, maybe the fear of, you know, when you're struggling all the time, when things are always difficult, when every situation is always a challenge, every person is a challenge, every relationship is a challenge. And although we say we want certain things and we have aspirations, we might be very familiar with that. And when we step outside where things are smooth and they're easy and people are kind and they're nice and everything is free flowing, we don't trust it. We want it, but we don't trust it.
All right.
And so the Four of Cups can be like, well, what if I actually get what I want? Then what? Wow, won't life suck then? What will I do with all my free time when there's no struggle, no challenge?
Right.
And it's being able to recognize that there is this new offer, this new element. So it's interesting in this card, and it's often depicted this way in many of the decks, where you have three cards there and you have a fourth one being offered, and the figure, the character, is unaware really of the potential in that other one. And the Three of Cups is like the things they're familiar with, all the people and the situations and how whatever you're used to. And it can be good, but it can also just be familiar. It can just be a habit. It could even just be a state of mind. But this is the Ace of Cups, the Ace of Cups, where all that love and all the nurturing and how you can like open up to just about anything you can imagine. But you might not take it because you might not recognize it. You might not think you deserve it. You might think it's just a bunch of hot air. You might think it's something else. And it's so to be very aware on that day, like self-sabotaging mechanisms at play. If I really want this thing, am I really going to turn the corner? And even if you have those self-doubts, just keep going as if you already know.
Right.
Just go through the motions anyway. That's what I would suggest.
Mm-hmm. On November 20th, again, the Sun and Mars then create a sextile to Pluto in Capricorn. This feels like the continuing of support. Sun and Mars continue moving forward, but Pluto in Capricorn is, if at this point you find that you're struggling with something or things keep coming up, it's dig a little deeper. Pluto in Capricorn is about this digging just a little bit deeper to find your power. It's personal power, and it has represented that for a long time. Sun and Mars in Scorpio, sextile Pluto in Capricorn. I think it's also clarity. If, let's say that you're not at the point where you're struggling and things are actually moving forward for you pretty smoothly, this is just another point of clarity. Perhaps you have a conversation with someone that then leads you to something else, or you knock the door to wanting to work with someone who feels really big, and it's like, well, all you have to do is try. This feels, sextiles aren't considered a big deal in the zodiac, or I think they're overlooked, but I think that sextiles represent this invitation from the universe and saying, well, what if you tried? Well, what if you took action on this and see what happened? Sextiles are like these little doses of magic that I think we overlook a lot.
Yeah, it's typically some kind of conducive energy.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Mm-hmm.
what it is, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We have the Queen of Swords there, so talk about clarity. And you know, we just had the Ace of Swords sandwich, so we have the Queen of Pentacles, Ace of Swords, Four of Cups, and another Queen.
Mm-hmm.
Again, feminine receptive energy, except she has a sword, so she can, this I say she, it's the character in the card, so embody this feeling of wit, intelligence, no nonsense,
Mm-hmm.
sharp-tongued,
Mm-hmm.
potentially bitchy. In the positive sense, this is like, I I'm pretty sure I know who I am. At least I know who I'd like to be. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to embody that, and I'm going to run a little test with the universe. See what shows up. This
Mm-hmm.
situation shows up. No, how do I handle it? Do I slip back into my old patterns, or do I sit there on the throne with my sword and go, no, no, nope, nope, next?
Right.
And that's that test where you actually get to see what the universe is giving you, receptive feminine energy, and then you can say, no, I'm sorry, that won't do.
Right. Yeah.
In this, you know, at the you know, a sword's length away.
On November 22nd, we start Sagittarius season. So in recent years, because we were experiencing eclipses in Scorpio, Scorpio energy felt really heavy. This Scorpio energy doesn't strike me as that. It feels, there is some intensity, there's a lot of clarity, but it doesn't feel heavy. So moving into Sagittarius energy, I think it's just going to just lighten things up a little bit. We're not going to be so intense or so focused on a lot of things. And when you think about it, that's the beginning of holiday season in a lot of places. So I think that Sagittarius season, because it's going to involve a Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius, and it's going to start off with squares to Saturn, take it slowly. Take it slowly, truly focus on joy, focus on the now, and trust that everything else is working out. In the bigger picture, everything else is working out. But there's not much to that. There's not much more that I can add to that.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a major arcana for that one, and it's
Mm-hmm.
the Lovers, which is
Mm-hmm.
number 6. It's a card about balance and choices.
Mhm.
And it's typically associated with Gemini, but it can be really anything air. And it's a major arcana, but it has a very light energy associated with it.
Mhm.
It's a yes. It's not a difficult card. This
Mhm.
is a positive card. Sixes are always about balance or bringing things back into balance. It's again, who do we align ourselves with? Um, Mirrors of ourselves, situations that reflect our frequency. I mean, to bring it down to its common denominator, whatever is reflected back to us is because that's what we're channeling out there. And this is really a card of that, of being cognizant of what it is, what am I broadcasting in my
Mhm.
thoughts and my feelings and my behavior and my self-analysis even. What do I dwell on? That's what's reflecting back with
Mhm.
this.
I love that. I love that because knowing that it is pretty light energy.
Mm-hmm.
The next day on November 23rd, we have the Sun in Sagittarius square Saturn in Pisces. So the Sun in Sagittarius, so you Sagittarius season for all of us, it's is met with the end of our calendar year. So it tends to be a day where people kind of check out and are ready to experience holidays or the end of the year wrap up, whatever that means for them, right? So on the one hand, that's great. On the other hand, the Sun in Sagittarius can be like, I just want to go and I want to go quickly. The square to Saturn in Pisces is again not so fast. Not so fast. It's wanting to, abruptly book a flight and get away. And Saturn in Pisces is saying, are you running away? Is that really what you want to do? Is that really what you can do right now? Is that necessary? So take things lightly. And let's say that you're trying to, I don't know, put something together and you keep meeting, it feels like you keep meeting wall. Trust it. Trust the delay. It's okay. The world doesn't end. Trust the delays really from that last week and a half of November through
Mm-hmm.
through December, through the end of the year, because there is a purpose, there is a reason why certain things are not moving in the direction or at the speed that you would like. What that reason is, I don't know. It's very different for everyone, but the overall energy is that. So just take a chill pill if you're someone who has, who needs everything to go a
Yeah.
certain way.
Why,
Right.
why,
Right.
why? And
Right.
if you've ever done an EFT session with me, you know that we say things like, well, why is it that? And
Right.
instead of saying the negative thing, we say the positive thing.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that all of these delays prosper me?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that this thing that I thought I wanted is being put on hold for my greater good?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's something we can do. And so we've got the Ace of Wands here. This is the third ace that we've,
Another ace.
yeah,
Yeah.
very, this is, all the aces are positive because they're always the beginning of something, whatever the element is that they're representing. Wands are fire. It's the magic wand that the magician has. It's the ability to be inspired and manifest something. And it is not instantaneous. This is not the magician. This is, I would even go further than, when we talk about January 20th, I think it is, where Pluto goes into Aquarius, starting that new era. We've had this whole year of reconfiguring just in
Right.
case,
Right.
because we're entering that new era for a couple of decades. This is again sort of realigning to that thing. Okay, we've got the Ace of Swords. This is what I think, this is what I want to focus on. This is that inspired part of, okay, I can actually make things happen. I can. It's not even just the doing. there's like 20% of the doing, 80% of the waving around your wand.
I love that. Yes, exactly. I would much rather wave my wand on any given day.
Yes, yes, but it's, you know, it's still like another couple months, like
Right.
literally 2 months away before you actually see that going. You know, it's kind
Hmm.
of like, boom, I'm manifesting,
Right.
and it's being pulled from somewhere. It's not going to show up. You don't see it. You just have to know, whew, when I do this, something happens. It reminds me of an
Right.
old joke that Stephen Wright had said. He moved into an apartment and he said, there's this switch on my wall and it doesn't seem to do anything. And every day I turn it on and I turn it off and nothing happens. A couple of months later, I got this letter from a woman in Sweden. And she said, cut it out. So
Right.
it's that kind of thing. You are doing something, it's just
Hmm.
not right in front of you.
Funny. Right. November 24th, Mars in Sagittarius. So here we are now going from a lot of intense energy of all being accumulated in Scorpio to slowly, planet by planet, moving into Sagittarius. Mars in Sagittarius is, to me, just roars freedom. I need freedom to be me. I need freedom to come and go when I want. I need freedom to roam the world, to be who I want to be whenever I want to be. So there is this element of freedom there. Is it impulsive? It can be impulsive, but it can be it's this energy of being a little delusional. There's a little bit of delusion there. And I don't necessarily think that being delusional is necessarily a bad thing. I think that sometimes delusion is required so that we can move in a certain direction, right? But still, everything around you is saying still move slowly. Be delusional to dream big, but we're going from Mars and Scorpio that is very diligent, intentional, strategic action to Mars and Sagittarius, which is okay. I feel too withheld. I feel too, within bounds. Mars and Sagittarius wants to go out of bounds. I think if you're mindful of the direction that you're moving in, Mars and Sagittarius is giving you all of that fire energy to move forward. Be patient still, but I don't know. I don't want to say that it's good or bad. It's just comes with a lot, and how you hold all of it will truly depend on where you're at.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about delusional, that what we just had, the
Right.
Ace of Wands is like that. The
Mm-hmm.
I'm waving the magic wand and something is appearing
Mm-hmm.
somewhere
Right.
and it's getting shipped to me. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
that feeling of, you have to be delusional in a good way to know that it is coming to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's like suspending disbelief in a movie so that you can enjoy the movie.
Oh, so great. Yeah, that's such a great way of putting it.
So on this day, just the day later, we've got the Nine of Cups.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the things that feed you in every sense, all the different things. And it's having more than enough. So it's not to say, okay, on the 23rd, you wave your magic wand, on the 24th, you get 9 cups, you know, filled with stuff at your door. It's not that quick. It might be, but it's not necessarily that quick.
Right.
You get the sign that it's working. You get the sign that you're on the right track. You get
Mm-hmm.
reinforced belief that you are connected to source and abundance,
Mm-hmm.
and it is flowing. You know, we joke around a lot in sessions and say, like, get the signier signs. That
Mm-hmm.
you should be getting a lot of signier signs this month, I would
Right.
say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, that's a good point. I think so. So that Mars in Sagittarius, that energy that doesn't want to be tamed, on November 25th, and for a few days after that, before and after, I mean, it's going to feel the energy of, again, that slowing down or coming to a stop, because on November 25th, Mars in Sagittarius squares Saturn in Pisces. So remember, Mercury did this, the Sun did this, and now Mars is doing this. Mercury, the Sun, and Mars coming to instantly, as soon as they enter Sagittarius, coming to a square to Saturn and Pisces, to me feels like all of the things that we want to move forward with and can't just yet, that we're going to actually have the opportunity to work through during the Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius.
Mm.
So remember, Mercury retrogrades are about reviewing, but the second half of November, we are already getting huge insight as to what we're actually going to work on with that Mercury retrograde in Sag. So just slow down and be okay with slowing down.
We actually have like the best card in the deck for that day. I was going to say second best, but we could say the best. Well, second best in the top three best cards. It's the sun, and we've got all these sunflowers growing. We've got this crow pulling this red ribbon, like life force, on a white horse. You know, everything's clear and pure. You don't fly too close to the sun. Not that a crow would ever make it there, but you know, that's the story about, you know, getting too close to the sun.
Mm-hmm.
It just shines a nice warm vibe over everything that it touches.
Mm-hmm.
And unlike in real life, you know, if you have too much sun, you get a sunburn, your crops dry up. It in the tarot, it doesn't really have a negative connotation. You know, just sit there, bask
Mm-hmm.
in the warmth.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
And so we end the month with the full moon in Gemini at 4 degrees Gemini on November 27th. And a major aspect of this full moon in Gemini is Mercury in Sagittarius creating a square to Neptune in Pisces. So this full moon in Gemini is interesting because anytime we have a Mercury square Neptune is lacking clarity. Is Mercury cognitive thought, communication, negotiation, all of those things, squaring, creating an aspect of tension to Neptune in Pisces. There is something that is unclear. There is something that you don't know. There is something perhaps that maybe someone is not telling you, which is why I mentioned earlier, if you're signing anything, if you're negotiating anything, if you're agreeing to anything, the first half of November is the best, because the second half we near that square to Neptune in Pisces, and it's a lack of clarity. So it's interesting because it's a full moon. It illuminates in Gemini information, and maybe it's something that, you know, you discover something that you didn't know. You discover a lie. There's a bit of this element of deceit in there. But I think that from the time of the full moon, I think it's still going to be about a week, maybe even 2, until the story fully unfolds. So there is this desire to understand things, Gemini, but the Mercury Neptune square, again, it's saying not now. There's such a huge theme of not yet, not now, not so fast.
Yep. Tie off all the loose ends. Keep applying yourself. Keep knowing that there is a future. Do this, do that, fix the gears, oil the gears, tighten up those bolts, turn the lights on, get enough sleep, make sure you're doing. It's like all of that, and the machine is ready to move.
Right.
So for that full moon, we have a very interesting card, which is the Death card.
Interesting.
And it's often called death and rebirth. And in this, we actually see the soul of that crow leaving its body.
Yeah.
It's released. It's, you know, whenever you find out something, once you find out, once you've, it can be for so many different things. It's the leading up to the thing that causes you all the problem, like all of the angst and all of the worry and all of that stuff. And it's ends in futility until you actually, even giving birth, usually once it's out, oh, you feel so much better. It's the, oh my gosh, how is this going to come out, is the worry and the pain and everything. So this death is like being released from the unknown, being released from the worry, being released from the, I don't know, whatever, the anxiety. And when I look at this whole month, other than the Five of Wands, there is nothing in here that says we should be confused or worried or upset about anything, which is insane because it's wonderful, but it's really to pull your energy back into that space, because don't look at anything else. If you look at this in this way, you are increasing your vibration so high, you can do just about anything. And you will be in alignment with all of those things that are at a higher vibration, that in turn connect you with other people who are doing the same thing, in turn connect you with changing the world. If you want a big lofty goal, there's one.
Right.
And so this is like, it's a, it can be like for a full moon, it's like a weird and creepy card, but it's really good. It's like purging something once and for all. Now, walk through that door. Now, I was with you live when I actually pulled, I can't even say pulled the cards for the last one, but they jumped out, and they jumped out like, so this was the card, this other card came up on it like this. So Mercury and Sagittarius squaring Neptune and Pisces makes perfect sense. I get the Empress card. Again, feminine energy, receptivity, the big picture, being able to receive. You walk through that door, you've been released from all of this nonsense. Great. Feminine energy of the highest kind. The opposite of the patriarchy out there in the world. Okay. The proper, non-toxic feminine energy, divine feminine. And then I was afraid to even look at the card that was on top of this. Ready to hold on to your hat? What did I say before? The sun was like the best card in the deck.
Right.
We finished this month with the sun, death, the Empress, which is amazing. The World.
Oh my gosh.
Final card in the deck and the final card in the month.
I love that.
You want to talk about the feeling of liberation, of trust. It's basically saying throughout the whole month, I'm getting goosebumps, but do all the things, suspend disbelief, do all the things, just stop telling yourself you don't believe it. Even if you keep telling yourself you don't believe it, do the stuff anyway. Go through everything. Boom, 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 boom. Just keep going. Just keep going. Oh, I just had this horrible thought. I used to do this thing. Why did I do that? Okay, whatever. Just keep going. Just keep going. Just keep going. Keep focusing on the thing. Like be the donkey with the carrot. Just keep going. Do the stuff. Tie off the loose ends. And it ends with like, I mean, I'm not looking at December yet, but I'm thinking like everybody's going to be doing a little bit of like, like, do we really?
Yeah.
It's pretty good, I say.
Well, it does feel like we're being prepped for December to be like a reveal of some sort. You know, again, those squares to Saturn and Pisces, not just yet, not just yet, but keep moving forward, because both Sagittarius and Pisces energy have so much to do with keeping a bigger picture in mind.
Yeah.
They really do. So I'm looking forward to November. I like November. Um, October was a lot. October was really a lot. And I'm not dreading so much this Scorpio season.
Not at
Not at
all.
all.
I
Yeah.
think, you know, let's say you're not looking for a new job or a new relationship or signing contracts or any of those kinds of analogies that we've made. What is it that you're doing now that is going to affect who and what you are in the next 2 decades?
Yes.
It's the same kind of thing. You can apply it really on a micro level of
Mm-hmm.
how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how are you bridging the gap between your current transitional self and your future self?
Mm-hmm.
That's really it.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Ta-da. Yeah.
There you go.
Well, thank you all again so much for joining us. We hope that this is helpful and of service. As always, if you like and subscribe, that is so helpful for us. And, if you find that this can be helpful to friends or family, also please share our videos. This is our third season. We have so much fun doing this. And so we're looking forward to continuing this Astro Tarot deep dive.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you all so much.
you. Yeah.
All right. Bye.